It's the 10th day of the deadliest Israel-Palestine conflict. And as we know that there has been a devastating situation there in Israel, and the situation seems worrisome. The tense diplomacy continue, and to speak today, we have with us the First Secretary Political Affairs of Israel Embassy, Hadass Baksh. She's going to give an analysis of what this war is all about and the geopolitical impact that can have from this war. Hello, hi, welcome to ETV Bharat, and many thanks for joining us. Of course, as we know that this deadliest attack has entered its 10th day, of course, and the fact that there has been lot of casualties that we have seen on both the side. My first question to you would be, where do we stand as, of course, Gaza will be invaded by Israel. Of course, Israel has declared war, and it's going to launch the ground invasion in Gaza Strip. Where do we stand now, and what is the situation like?
Well, I'll start by thanking you for coming and having me here today. As for now, yes, you are correct. Israel will enter Gaza Strip. As for now, the situation since October 7th has been the most brutal situation that Israel has ever known in Israel's history. On October 7th, more Israelis were murdered in one day since the Holocaust. And Israel will defend itself, and Israel has the right to defend itself, and it will enter Gaza ground entrance, and will make sure that Hamas terror organization will no longer govern Gaza.
Well, of course, the whole world is staring at a situation, a war-like situation, of course, when we see this, and it is a concern for the whole international community. Given the fact that, would you like to tell us, our viewers, regarding, how this all started, how this has been, because you are from Israel, of course, you're here from the past 2.5 months in New Delhi. Of course, tell us your experience. Probably you can just share what is the situation like and what's new this time, basically. How did it all started? And also, of course, talking about the Hamas militant group, how did it, how it came into the picture?
Well, giving the entire history will be very difficult, but I will say that since 2006, Hamas terror organization has governed Gaza Strip, utilizing all the money, utilized it into Gaza, into military weapons, into military learning and training, and that's what it has been doing. And I think that no history will change, any history lesson won't change the fact that the Hamas terror organization has attacked brutally and murdered over 1,300 civilians, innocent civilians in Israel on October 7th. And I think this is something that Israel has to take and is taking into concern, that they will have to make sure that the Hamas terror organization will no longer be in control in Gaza Strip.
Of course, as you have mentioned, that it's not easy to give us a sense of the history of how it all started. Probably you can just brief us how it all started, because this is the crux of the entire situation that people would like to know about it. Because now the fact that we need to listen to both the sides. So tell us about that, basically, of course, and of course that Israel is all prepared for a ground invasion in Gaza Strip. What would be the ramifications, and also the fact that the humanitarian crisis, as the defense minister has already announced, for the fuel, the electricity are all being stopped. There is a cease of all fuel and electricity and food. Tell us about the ramification that one could have from this particular.
Well, I think we should start by saying that the Hamas terror organization has been absolutely satanic and brutal throughout the years, and most extremist on October 7th with the massive murder they have made. And I think that Israel for sure has the right to defend itself, and and will do anything it takes, as I said beforehand, to ensure that Hamas will no longer regime the Gaza Strip. Throughout the years, since 2006, Hamas has been bombing and throwing rockets into Israel's territory throughout all years and using their own civilians as human shields. This is something that has been throughout the history of Hamas terror organization since 2006. And at this point, after the brutal attack that the world has seen, babies, old ladies, women being murdered, raped, brutally attacked. So this is now the point where, after this terrible attack, where Israel has the right and has to defend itself. Israeli IDF is the most humanitarian military in the world and will try to minimize casualties. But like in any war, it has to make its calculations and make sure that the Hamas terror organization will no longer be controlling the Gaza Strip.
Well, of course, now let's talk about, of course, the stake it could have on the Middle East. That's one of the biggest questions, given the fact that we have seen the Abraham Accord, which is one of the most essential agreement when it comes to the Middle East, and also the fact that Saudi Arabia has actually decided to put normalization of ties with Israel on ice amid the war. What do you have to say on this? What can we expect when it comes to Middle East relations?
Well, Abraham Accords has really changed, the region, the whole Middle East region, since it was initiated, in many aspects. And as for now, as I said, our main concern is, first of all, to make sure that the Hamas terror organization will no longer be in control. And after the war ends, of course, we will continue our conversations with Saudi.
And of course, as we know that Iran is in the picture, very much in picture, given the fact that Iran has actually warned Israel of the war against Hamas, basically on the Gaza Strip. So we could see that Iran is very much in support with the Hamas right now in this picture. So your take on that, how do you see this, or what kind of geopolitical impact it could have on the entire world? Yeah.
Well, Iran and the Ayatollah regime is the one supporting the Hamas terror organization and the Hezbollah terror organization in Lebanon. And we see them as the ones in charge throughout the years in giving weapons and military training to both terror organizations. And Iran is standing behind these terror organizations, and Israel will make sure to stand in all fronts of Israel strong and defend itself throughout any enemy that will come upon us.
So you mean to say that, of course, after the war, as you have mentioned, that the relation with Middle East will continue. You mean to say that the relation between Saudi Arabia and Israel, which was pushed by the US basically for a normalization of ties, will continue, you mean to say?
I believe so.
Or where do we stand right now? Because you see that Saudi Arabia is basically tilting towards Iran, for that matter.
I wouldn't say they're tilting towards Iran. I would say that due to the war in the meantime, as you said, the talks with the Saudi, as for now, during the war only, are frozen, and I am sure and certain that once the war will be end, we will continue our conversations with Saudi Arabia.
How important do you think this relation would be, given its, given the fact that the Middle East is the crisis that the Middle East is suffering from now? So, how important this relation would be to carry forward, and how this war is going to impact further with the rolling out of the Abraham Accord? Your last take on that?
Well, I will say that, of course, our relations in the Middle East and changing the whole region is thanks to Abraham Accords, is extremely important to Israel and to the entire region. If it is to bring more peace among the region, and if it is to create more economical ties, and I think it's been extremely important. As for Saudi, they aren't still part of the Abraham Accords, but we have got flight agreements with them, which is extremely important and life-changing for both sides. And therefore, I believe that once the war will be ended, everything will continue with Saudi as well.
Okay, so let's now talk about, of course, India. We have seen India's stand. Of course, India has announced it would stand with Israel, and of course we have seen Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeting and expressing concern regarding the situation. Your take on that? What would be the ramification when it comes to Israel-India ties, when it comes to the trade between India and Israel, the economic and the trade ties that India-Israel have on different sectors? What can we expect? How it will be impacted? Your take.
I will say that first of all, I think this is a good platform to thank the Indian people and Prime Minister Modi ji for the support in Israel in these difficult times. It's really, been pretty spectacular to see the amount of support we're receiving from India. As for the economic trade, I don't think in any way it will be hurt by the war. Israel, unfortunately, has known many wars throughout the year, and we know how to substantiate ourselves both economically, and especially that most of our trade is through technology and high-tech and people working from home, and even due to coronavirus times, we know how to work from home pretty well. So I really believe that the trade won't be hurt at all due to the war.
Yeah, and of course, I would like to ask you one very, very major question. When we talk about the Palestinian has been, when we talk about the terror groups, this has somehow created the Palestine is in support of the terror, and of course Pakistan is trying every possible way to rake terror in a region like Kashmir. Would you like to comment on this, that Palestine has been supporting terror attacks somehow in support of Pakistan, or what would you like to say anything on this? Because this is also a matter of concern, a security concern for India, because given our ties with Pakistan and also our region, the disputed region, of course you know about the Kashmir region that Pakistan has been targeting for years now. Would you like to comment on that?
I will say that I think, unfortunately, India knows terror attacks throughout the years, just as Israel does. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Indian population and citizens have been standing beside us through these difficult times, because I think, your history is also full of terror, and you can relate to the difficult times Israel is going through right now. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So once we spoke about, of course, the Indian government is also, when you talk about zero tolerance, your take on that? How do your government see this? Basically, what is the Israel government is up to? Will there be an agreement or a solution to it? How the Israeli government is working on ground, basically?
Well, as for now, the Israeli government, as you said, has zero tolerance for terror attacks from all fronts of Israel, and will do anything that it can in order to make sure that there won't be more terror attacks in Israel's territory. That's right now what Israel government is making sure of in all fronts of Israel, and Israel is strong. Israel will know how to deal with terror attacks coming into Israeli territory.
Of course, my last question would be to you is, and of course, as we know that Israel has all the right to defend itself against from the Hamas militant attack, of course. But do you think is this force used? I would say used on Gazans will be justified. Is it justified enough, the attack?
Well, if you look back to October 7th, seeing over 1,300 murdered, babies being burnt, old women being kidnapped, families being completely demolished, I think Israel needs and has to defend itself. This is the right of each country to defend their civilians. As I mentioned earlier, Israel, IDF, the most humanitarian military in the world, will do all it can in order to make sure to minimize the casualties in Gaza Strip, but will do anything in its power to make sure that Hamas terror organization will no longer govern Gaza, especially after this horrific and inhuman and satanic attack.
Thank you, others, for joining us and giving us your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.